Welcome, everybody, to the D1Softball Women's College World Series 2025 preview special. We are so excited to be back. I know you all missed us from our selection show special. Jenna Becerra here alongside some of my favorite colleagues of all time, our In the Circle co-hosts Eric Lopez and Victor Anderson joining us. We are going to be breaking down all things leading into this Women's College World Series. Guys, maybe tell all the people everything that you two do, because we know you're in the circle, but you guys do a heck of a lot for this sport.
Well, we do. We cover the sport on a daily basis, do the podcast weekly, and of course, D1Softball contribute. I did go perfect, 64 for 64 in bracketology. Nobody in the country could say that, not in any other sport either. But we cover it on a daily basis. We've had guests from every team in this World Series has been on the show this year on In the Circle at one point or another. So always good to be with you, Jenna. This is a tradition unlike any other. You are making the effort. You're in Oklahoma City while we're on remote, but we will try to assist you. And of course, we got a great staff covering the whole World Series in Oklahoma City that people need to check out all week long on D1Softball.
Absolutely. And Victor, got to hear from you after that slight flex from Eric there with the 64 for 64, although we do respect it.
Well, that's standard operating procedure, and given all the unusual variables that we had going into this year, the fact that he pulled out 64 out of 64, it's remarkable unto itself. And we are full of surprises that we've been teasing. We'll get to that shortly, gentlemen. We got to share the folks at home what we got coming up, and then how they can follow our phenomenal coverage of the Women's College World Series.
Absolutely. So for our agenda today, our lineup, if you will, first, we're going to go through what the World Series actually looks like, just the basics, number of teams, all the info going into what the bracket looks like. We know, as we saw at the selection show, what was revealed for the 64, but we've whittled it down now to 8 teams in Oklahoma City. So we'll talk through that a little bit. And then we will actually have our first guest of the evening join us to help us break down some of the bracket and some of their experience. Then we're going to go one side of the bracket at a time. So we'll analyze one side of the bracket. We'll bring on our second guest, and then we'll analyze the other side of the bracket. And we'll have some final thoughts in our wrap up as well. And that's where things, at least Victor typically makes those a little extra spicy for us. So
really?
Forward to that.
Where would you ever get that? Why would I ever do such a thing like that, guys? I mean,
well, it's an exciting time. It's the World Series. 8 teams field, kind of a unique field as we'll break down in this tournament, this next hour. A lot of casuals are tuning in for the first time that haven't followed softball all year, which is always exciting. But enough talk about the NFCA. Let's talk about, obviously, the teams on the field.
Wow.
Why? I was just telling. I mean, did you not see some of the awards they gave out today? Holy macro! Clearly, they haven't watched.
They apparently didn't see the D1Softball awards, which you can read.
That is much more credible because our team does watch a lot of games. But look, this is unique because on one side of the bracket you've got all SEC teams, but then on the other side you've got basically a bracket that blew up and a lot of surprises to some that are in this field. So it kind of creates kind of a unique recipe here, what we might be looking forward to here in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, like we said, the 64 teams who got to dance this postseason. Of course, for anyone who is new, who's joining, the breakdown from there is 64 teams went to 16 different regionals, so 4 teams per regional. The winners of those regionals then went on to super regionals. There was 8 total with 2 teams competing best of 3 series, essentially. And then from there, the 8 teams who made it to the Women's College World Series, who are here in Oklahoma City already practicing, doing the pre-World Series media, doing everything, are here now. So the 8 teams, we know who they are, but let's just make sure that we are dialed into what it's going to look like. This is what day 1 is. All 8 teams are going to play on day 1. They don't play every single day. There's the winner's bracket, there's a loser's bracket, but on day 1, absolutely, they're all playing. And to Eric's point, if you look at the left side for game 1 and game 2, it's very SEC heavy, Texas and Florida, with Tennessee and Oklahoma. And then the second half of the day, let's say, is Ole Miss and Texas Tech, the newbies, and then Oregon and UCLA, very familiar foes on the other side. Those are the 8 teams that we are watching in this Women's College World Series. The bracket itself, gentlemen, this is what it looks like. It's crazy to think how big the bracket was when we first started after the selection show. And now this is where we're at to crown a champion. So as Eric mentioned, the top, that's where it's a little bit SEC heavy. The top 4 seeds within these 8 in terms of the national seeds that came out on Selection Sunday are there. Ole Miss in the bottom with 12 Texas Tech, 16 Oregon, 9 UCLA. They're Ole Miss, the only unseeded team here. But so one thing to point out here, and then I want to hear from the guys, the first round of games. So like if we're looking at the top here with Florida and Texas, whoever wins that one will move on to what's here is game 7. That's game 7 of the entire series. Whoever loses that game 7, that 1-0 game, let's say, that's when the bracket crosses over. So that's when you will see, yes, this is how it starts with the 4 on top, 4 on the bottom. But at that game on both sides of the bracket, if you get into the loser's bracket, you can cross over onto the other side. So it does mix, if you will, at some point. But this is how we're starting out. Guys, just initial thoughts here looking at this.
Well, I think you start think of how many rematches we have here. You got Texas and Florida played earlier this year in Gainesville. Texas won that series. Those 2 teams played last year at the World Series. Granted, both teams are slightly different. You have Oklahoma and Tennessee as a rematch from a regular season series in Norman where Tennessee won. And then Oregon and UCLA is a rematch from a series a month ago in Eugene when Oregon won the series. So there's a lot of familiarity in these matchups. The cool thing is there's been some talk about maybe reseeding here, but the flip of the bracket, as you just explained, Jenna, kind of fixes that. I don't really think there's a need for that. I know all the coaches were asked today on Media Day about the seeding, and really the only ones that I think coaches brought up, in particular Mike White, and I agree with, is you see 32 teams. I think that's what coaches are more in favor of. I don't think nobody has an issue with the way the bracket is set up with the flip of the bracket. So that's what jumps out to me from seeing this bracket.
The only reason that the people are crowing about the reseeding, Eric, is because you have 4 SEC teams all playing each other in rematches at the top of the bracket, and then you have Texas Tech, Ole Miss, 2 first-timers in Oklahoma City, and UCLA, Oregon, those long-standing powerhouses in the Big 12, playing in the nightcap on the bottom side of the bracket. In any other year, had we had this configuration, there would be no problems. But because it involves the SEC and how top-heavy the conference has been, that's why everyone's been suggesting that reseeding. To your point, Eric, the crossing over brackets after you lose makes sense. That way it gives teams like a Florida, a Texas, a Tennessee, Oklahoma, whoever does not win that Saturday game at 3 p.m., a chance to battle away through the other side of the bracket to get themselves a chance to play the other in the championship series starting next week.
Tim Walton, by the way, said it best. You're going to play great teams when you get to this point to the World Series. So it doesn't matter. You just play great teams there. And here's the argument I would also make. If we did reseed this, I'm not sure. I don't think the top 4 seeds would be SEC teams. I think Texas Tech would be higher than maybe 1 or 2 of those teams the way they've been playing this tournament.
Well, if there's one thing you can count on, it's some hot takes on this Women's College World Series preview special. That is for sure. But yes, the 5 SEC teams, the 1 Big 12 representative, and then the 2 Big 10 teams. First time in over 10 years, there have been 2 Big 10 teams represented at the Women's College World Series in this first year of conference realignment. But we actually have somebody joining us who knows what it's like not only to play in this atmosphere here in Oklahoma City, but also to cover this sport really throughout the entire season as well as at the Women's College World Series. So drum roll for our first guest of the evening, Tori Vidales. Thank you for coming on the show. We are so excited to have you. And I can't wait to see you in person because it's been forever since you and I got to chat. So that's just on my personal side. But how are you doing?
Yes. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited. Yeah, it's been already a whirlwind of a week so far. Just got in, but already quickly to work. I'm just so excited. This is the best time of the year by far. So I can't wait to get all the games going and see everyone. It's such a fun time to see all your old friends.
It's the most wonderful time of year, right? It really is. And for the people who might not know, I don't know if they've been living under a rock, if that's the case, but if they don't know, Tori Vidales, one of the most fun SEC analysts to watch cover this sport, had to do it. And then also an Olympian, no big deal, from Tokyo with Team Mexico. And she played at Texas A&M. And she's played professionally with Athletes Unlimited, as well as other opportunities in the pro space too. So you've kind of done a little bit of everything. You're pretty impressive. Let's put it that way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Only on the weekends, you know?
Weekend warrior, you know? Yeah.
There you go. Something like that.
Well, maybe we'll start with this because we want to hear your thoughts as somebody who played in the SEC for a team who went up against some of these teams back in the day, but also you've covered it in depth, not just this season, but recent years as well. 5 SEC teams in this Women's College World Series. Wow. What are your takes on what you think we're going to see, I guess, from this conference, especially some of the head-to-head matchups?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially because of the head-to-head matchups we've already seen this year, which is, I guess, could be good, could be bad, depending on how you're looking at it. It's always hard to beat a team 3 times. So if you're looking like Texas took the series from Florida, is Florida going to be able to bounce back and maybe take one here? That's really important. Or, you know, OU dropping 2 in Norman against Tennessee. They've already seen Carlin Pickens, the ace. So it's just going to be interesting, I think, to see how many teams make adjustments and how quickly they're making adjustments, what kind of adjustments they're making, because it is a little bit of a good thing and a bad thing that you guys have already seen each other, because while you've seen them, they've also seen you. So I think it truly depends on how you're viewing it, and the adjustments are going to be what I'm keeping my eye on the most, I think, coming up. And how exciting for Ole Miss making their first appearance ever, and also playing Tech making their first appearance ever. I mean, what a story. It hasn't happened since, I think they said 2001. So it's really, and that they're playing each other, I should say, because that's happened before, but they haven't played each other. So just really excited to see what everyone's going to bring. It's such a special environment, like you were talking about, and the big lights, they get even brighter here. So interested to see how people manage those feelings as well, because that's a part of the game that I think a lot of people forget once you get to this stage.
Tori, first of all, hopefully in a few years, resume-wise, we'll add, Texas A&M Athletic Hall of Famer to that resume that Jenna read off there. You definitely have those accolades should get you there one day. But as a great hitter, I'm curious. You talked about where Oklahoma has seen Tennessee. They've seen Carlin Pickens. But is there any such thing of having any advantages of seeing Carlin Pickens so many times? Because it seems like when she's on her game, it doesn't matter how many times you face her, you got some problems. What's your thoughts on that? Oklahoma has seen Pickens, but I think Pickens is coming off her best game of the year on Sunday when she shut out Nebraska and throwing, of course, 79 miles an hour over the weekend. What do you think of that matchup in particular?
Yeah, I mean, really good pitching beats good hitting, honestly, every day of the week. So any opportunity that you have to see a good pitcher, especially one that's throwing gas, it is like another tool in your toolbox, right? And the more times you see it, the more times you work with that tool, the more familiar you are with said tool, how it works, what's the charging schedule like what kind of projects can you use it in? So you can take that and kind of apply it to your lineup. And it was funny because we were looking at some of the heat maps. I think it was for Pickering and Gabby Garcia, and they were hard in the bottom of the zone was the hottest part of their heat map. So to me, that tells me that they can get down to that pitch very well without overdoing it, right? If a lot of people can elevate and celebrate if a ball's already elevated in the zone, but to me, it tells me that their swings are a lot more true in their legs, able to drop that barrel a little bit better. So if they're hunting the drop ball from Carlin Pickens, then I think that they could see success. But I think it really does come down to sitting a pitch and sitting a speed. I think Carlin will mix in her changeup quite often with such a potent offense. So it's going to be important to buy into the plan, whatever it is, which OU has done that pretty well throughout really Patty's reign, JT's reign. So going to be a fun one to watch, that really potent offense against the arm of Carlin Pickens.
Well, speaking, Tori, of prolific offenses, Florida's offense seemed to find their groove at the right time, especially in Game 3, beating Georgia to make it here to Oklahoma City. Now they kick on Texas, lost to them 2 out of 3, but it seems like Kendra Falvey, Taylor Shoemaker, the National Freshman of the Year, they're starting to find their form at the right time. What does Florida need to do differently in this meeting from Texas to get them success, unlike what happened with them earlier in the season?
That's a good one. Yeah, I think both of these teams are in completely different spots than they were. I think the thing that makes me a little hesitant is just the runners left on base in the super regional, right, for Florida against Georgia. And you're talking about, at least in my opinion, Florida, I would have expected to put up crooked numbers in every single game that they played against Georgia. And that's not a knock against Georgia's pitching. It's just the kudos to Florida's bats. And the fact that they were struggling, it makes me a little worried, because when you start thinking about it and that becomes the conversation, then it's really easy to get caught up in that narrative of, oh no, we need a big hit here, instead of being like Florida naturally does. I feel like they play really free and they just kind of let the game come to them. Yes, you're making adjustments, but when really any offense is playing free and enjoying the game, I think that's when you see them start to, just be more loose, be more smooth. Those hits start to fall, find a little bit of that Gator magic that they always lean on, especially in the postseason. But I think the same could be said for Texas. They started to come out of their, I don't want to say lull, because it wasn't a true lull, but like having Kavan being on her best arm circle as of right now, later in the season, like coming on for her in that second game of Clemson was just lights out. She was phenomenal and keeping them in that game. And their bats have really come alive at the right time after getting stomped on in the SEC tournament. So for me, it's just like about the offenses and which one is truly going to show up. No matter what, the top 4 or 5 in the offense that comes through, I think is going to be the team that ends up coming away with that game.
Do you have a player, Tori, that's kind of a sleeper player that's kind of could be an unsung hero? You think of, last year at this time, we were talking about Cassidy Pickering, the freshman carrying Oklahoma, for example. Do you have a player on any of the SEC team rosters that you're like, hey, watch out for this name because this player can make a difference here and make at this World Series?
Ooh, there's so many, especially with having 5 teams. I honestly feel like I could give you one from each team. But maybe a big one for Ole Miss would be Mackenzie Pickens. I mean, not Pickens. Wait, yes, that was right.
Yes.
Pickens. Yeah, I'm like, wait, is
So
it
you're
like
like,
I said
Carlin
Carlin's name too much
Kenzie.
earlier? I love it. Yeah, Pickens. She's been really great at second base for Ole Miss, and she's one of those that have had pretty consistent numbers the whole season and really started to come alive and like shining at the right moments. We saw her with the big home run at the SEC tournament. We saw her in regionals with the big home run at Arizona. So I feel like she's one that if she can get going, the rest of the Ole Miss lineup can get going. Although they're up against a big challenge in Nyjah. Obviously that rise ball is electric. So I really am like looking forward to seeing how teams decide to attack her, specifically Ole Miss. Like that was a big conversation between me and Haley today. How are they going to go after it? And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, you just got to try to get on top of the rise ball and understand that you have to overcorrect. And being so young, she's a freshman. So sometimes I feel like being a freshman, innocence is bliss, naivety is bliss, because you don't let everything kind of get in and penetrate the way you would when you have a little bit of the experience. I would say she would be one that I would kind of keep my eye on, could pop out. That's maybe not everybody has heard her name before.
Yeah, this is all really interesting. See, we knew we wanted you on here. So appreciate it.
Happy to be a service.
I think we all want to know what you were feeling in this moment.
Oh,
Look at that!
whoa!
Got to be in this place.
You would think like the trajectory of that ball looks like it's going out, right? Routine pop fly to left field.
You
That's
can't see that part.
amazing. Wow. That, actually does bring back a lot of memories, especially the ankle brace throwback.
Yeah, that was a great moment.
That was amazing. Wow. Wow, that actually does bring back a lot of memories, especially the ankle brace throwback. Wow. That actually does bring back a lot of memories, especially the ankle brace throwback.
Right. And
this
also,
was before we got the really cool uniforms at A&M. Like now they're decked out. This
Yeah.
uniform didn't even have a belt. So I just want
Oh my
to shout out the no belt unis. We were really, really in there going for it.
that is at least like a little more comfortable. Like we used to go no belt at practice, and just because it was,
Well, it was a drawstring. So it was like
okay. All
held
right.
up with a tennis shoe shoestring. So I know that feeling where you're trying to pull your pants up in the back because your shirt keeps coming untucked and you just gotta keep tucking it in the back and pulling your pants up. That was me between every single play. It was
Oh my gosh, that's
lovely.
Well, I gotta give you a shout out to just your arms, the flex, man. Look at that power back then.
We gotta show them.
Yeah, we
gotta let them know. We gotta,
Yeah,
you like that. I know, honestly, it feels like yesterday, but also like 10 years ago.
Yeah, which is fair. I mean, I guess not to put on the spot because I'm older, for the record, but 8 years ago.
What? 8 years ago, I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, I know, but hey, A&M, we're gonna make it back. Don't you guys worry.
I was going to say, I mean, it looked like you were going to be seeing them this year, but they ran into a roadblock there in that regional with Liberty.
But why'd you have to bring that up with our guest?
Why? I mean,
We want her to come back, Eric. We want
Nothing's worse than how my career ended, so I'm like,
that's true. We don't need to bring that
all
up.
day.
You don't need to bring that up, but
Right.
it kind of proves though that it's hard to get to the World Series.
Yeah.
That's what let's learn there. What do you remember? What do you take from that experience when you were there as a player? What advice would you give maybe any player that's going to play this week? What advice would you give them based on your experience?
There was actually a moment that I was thinking about earlier today where I walked up to my pitcher and she was freaking out. Lexi Smith, she was in the circle, and her and I are very close still to this day. And I could see in her face, it was just very overwhelming. And it is overwhelming. I can't even imagine. I played 2 day games in Oklahoma City, and it was still overwhelming. The crowd was not packed. It was mostly OU fans. It was very quiet as well. Because a lot of the fans are just neutral. They just want to see good softball, right? They're not cheering overtly one side or the other unless you play for OU. But I was like standing there and I could see her getting overwhelmed. And I'm like, you know what? Let's pause. Like we took a timeout. I came up to her. I'm like, let's just look around for a second. Like look around, take it in, like give yourself a minute to actually look at it and then turn it off and let's go. Let's go. And like, it's important to notice where you're at. Like you always hear be where your feet are. And it's a big moment. Like you should be able to stand in that moment and acknowledge like, yes, I'm here. I made it. This is amazing. But now flip the switch. It's time to compete. And being able to manage that emotion of being grateful that you're there, but understanding the job's not done yet. And knowing that it's the same game you play every day, but now the pressure's turned up just a little bit more. And how are you going to handle that? And I see that the teams that normally handle that pressure the best and let the moment fuel them instead of make them shut down becomes a lot more free. So my advice would be just to soak it in and accept where you are and realize, all right, I've been dreaming of this, so it's time to show out.
You get to play in Oklahoma City. Now you get to be a part of the commentary with yourself, Haley McClenny, and Alyssa Lang and Dari Noka. What is it going to be like for you with Haley there, who's been in Oklahoma City before, and Alyssa, who is phenomenal, to be a part of the coverage of the SEC Network, given the type of year that your conference have had with 5 of your 8 teams being represented here in Oklahoma City?
Oh, when I tell you guys, it is the most fun being on set with those two. And really all of us have such a great time together. But there's something about me, Haley, and Alyssa, when we get together, it's just like magic. And we get to cover the sport that we love. We get to talk about players that we've been following all year. And honestly, it's just really fun to get to see other players experience their moment, right? Like this is a moment that they think back on and they're going to remember it forever. Like you showed me that picture and I can tell you exactly which AB it was. It was in the first inning. I was hitting in the 3-hole against Kelly Barnhill. Like I remember the moment. So knowing that I'm experiencing these moments alongside these players is really special. And knowing that it's just a small part that we get to do, but to make them and make the moment feel even bigger on this big stage, I couldn't be any more lucky. I'm having the time of my life.
Well, we're having an amazing time watching you when you played in college, everything you've done since then, and now with your new teammates on the studio set here in the Women's
Thank
College World
you.
Series. So thank you, Tori. This has been awesome. I'm so excited to hopefully get to say hello to you in person while we're here this week, and can't wait to watch all your great coverage.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me. Happy Women's College World Series.
Yes, the greatest show on dirt.
That's right. You heard it here first.
That's right.
All right, see you soon.
See you guys.
She's cool.
We love Tori Vidales.
Very hardworking. I mean, she does color commentary, A&M games, Houston games, and then does a lot of the studio stuff for SEC Network. So she does it all.
She really does. Yeah. And just her perspective of playing, but having covered, she just has such a multifaceted perspective
Yes.
of what she works on a day-to-day basis, so very much appreciate getting her insight. And we'll appreciate our next guest too, and that person's insight. Try not to give it away still. But because we've been talking so much bracket, really quickly, just a reminder to check in on the bracket challenge if you participated. So the deadline was on May 15th to submit a bracket, but see where your bracket stands before the Women's College World Series starts. The 2025 D1 Softball Bracket Challenge is presented by our friends at Chinook Seedery. So visit bracket-challenge.d1softball.com to see where your bracket ranks. I'm very curious to see how busted they are after the first game or two.
Well, we got people, Jenna, in the chat saying, Lauren Mulhaven, my bracket is toast.
Hey, you and me both, Lauren. It is what it is, but that's why we love it. It's mayhem, right? It's crazy for a reason.
Well, and think about the bracket, how different it would be. Think about, for example, South Carolina is 1 out away from being here. Yep. Clemson, 60 feet away, second and third, nobody out. 60 feet away from being here at the World Series. They're not here. Arkansas, home, number 4 seed, gone. FSU, 5 seed, gone. A&M, 1 seed, gone. I mean, this thing could have gone a lot of different ways in the bracket, and it's definitely one of the wilder, tense, I think, NCAA tournaments we've had in a little while. I mean, think about how many different teams could honestly say they're 1 out, 1 pitch, 1 play away from being here.
The only team that hasn't had any challenge en route to get into Oklahoma City is Oklahoma.
Yep.
As crazy as that sounds, and this is supposed to be a rebuilding year for Patty Gasso and company, and here they are once again with the chance to make it 5 straight national championships. And I kind of alluded to this, Eric, when we were doing our show on Monday, that this is the best that Oklahoma has played all season long from the end of the regular season, the SEC tournament, dominated regionals, handled Alabama and supers, and now they get a chance to get some payback on the 2 teams that beat them in conference series. You get Tennessee in the opener, and presuming Texas takes care of Florida, they get the Longhorns again on Saturday afternoon on ABC in front of a national audience, which I think would be a record-setting viewership crowd to watch that game if those 2 teams do advance.
So are you just dismissing Tennessee? Just dismissing
No.
Hey guys, Vic says don't even bother showing up, apparently.
You see, ladies and gentlemen, this is the type of instigation Eric Lopez gives when you listen to In the Circle on your favorite podcasting platform. We will not have a regular episode tomorrow. We will be live on Sunday. And, Eric and I need to work out some particulars about the Champ Series. We were talking about that off air, but we will give you an update. Follow us on our social media and In the Circle SB for more details.
Absolutely. And in the meantime, are we ready to welcome on our second guest?
Sure, why not?
I think we are. Another little drum roll for our second guest of the evening. It is Kenzie Fowler, ladies and gentlemen. Arizona Athletics Hall of Famer, ESPN analyst, and one of our favorite friends of all of our shows here at D1 Softball. Hi, Kenzie. Thank you for joining.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You have had a lot of experience as a player, but also now a lot of years under your belt as an analyst. And this year in particular, you got a front row seat to Ole Miss, one of the newbies here in the Women's College World Series on this stage in OKC, having seen them at the regional in Tucson, and then of course the Super Regional in Fayetteville, and you got to call those. Phenomenal job on those calls, by the way.
Thank
fun to see.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
What are some of your takeaways on them, though, man? The Rebs are hot.
They're hot, for sure. They have slugged their way to OKC. Their pitching was very underrated, I think, because the offense was really like, that was the showstopper. Like, they came out into Hillenbrand, and obviously the ball flies in Hillenbrand. We know that, but I think they would have done the same damage no matter where they were playing. If they were even playing in Baton Rouge, where the ball doesn't fly, they were just on time, big swings, had like a fearless mentality in the box, and that carried into Arkansas. Had one little speed bump where, they were shut out on that Saturday game when Arkansas was backs against the wall, and then just came out. And I think the key for Ole Miss, and you guys will have to tell me, are they visitors against Texas Tech?
They are visitors.
They like to be visitors because they like to hit, and they like to hit first, and they like to score first. Obviously, that's a very daunting task against Nigeria Kennedy to just go in there and say, we're going to score a run here in the first inning against the best pitcher. But I just think like that's their whole like thing. They like to be the underdog. They like to do things unconventionally. But they hit, man. And it wasn't even just like one player. Obviously, Aaliyah Benford was fun to talk about because she's the two-way star. And I feel like her home runs were always very timely, whether it was late fireworks or early fireworks. So we talked a lot about her, but you think about some of the freshmen that are in this lineup. Mackenzie Pickens is kind of at the bottom of the lineup, and she was stellar, just consistently putting good barrels to balls. And there were some players that got hot that maybe weren't hot in the regionals. So it's like a fun lineup in that way where it's really 1 through 9, like super solid. And then even making moves off the bench. They had a couple of really timely Taylor Roman a couple of times has been clutch. So if Taylor Roman comes in to pinch hit, which she will, just make sure you're tuned in because something's happening. It's been working up to this point.
Get that in.
Ready.
Yeah, get the popcorn. Now, Kenzie, though, as you mentioned, Ole Miss will open with Texas Tech and one Nyjah Kennedy, who you're quite familiar with. My friend, Nyjah Kennedy, by the way. Jenna's friend. I think your friend. You've covered her. By the way, I'm getting a lot of Pac-12 network vibes here. I don't know why, but I'm just sensing that.
Hold on.
Oh, here we go. We have a prop.
You have it. Yeah.
Oh!
Love that.
I just keep it near me at all times just for fun. It just makes me feel good. Anyway, yeah.
I'm not surprised with that. I have a feeling we'll be talking a little bit more about that in the next question. But Nyjah Kennedy, you covered her last year in her regional in the Supers when she was at Stanford. You saw her this year when Texas Tech played Arizona, and I'm sure you've seen her throughout the year. What have you seen from her this year versus Nyjah last year?
I think it took her a little time to get settled in. There's a lot of spotlight, and it's a new team, new coach. Like if you've been a player, that takes some comfortability, like that, for you to get to where you can be your best, because women, we play our best when we are our most authentic selves. And let's just be clear, like when you transfer or when you have a coaching change, it takes a minute to be your most authentic self. And especially with the spotlight that she's been under this entire season. But she looked the best I've ever seen her last weekend. And that is saying something, because I have seen her at her best many a time. And I think she has a little juice when she's in the box. I just really think that she has a little extra swagger. And if I'm an opponent, I don't want to let her get that extra swagger. If she gets a little extra, groove in the circle, it's a wrap. It's over. She looked really good. It was fun to watch her. I didn't get to watch as much as I would have, but I watched that Thursday game pretty much in full, and I was like, whoa, she's on it. Yeah.
We talked about that on the D1Softball podcast, Amanda Lorenz and I, because she's hit more home runs. She's hit 11. She's leading the team. Hit more than she's given up this year, which she's given up 9. 699 at bats.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Crazy.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's super cool to see her swing it. And she even played a little first this year, right?
Yeah,
so,
she has. She's played a little bit of first. And the big thing, because I was around them a lot at the Big 12 championships, the players just feed off of her. They just they love her. And she's such a great teammate because she'll pump, hey, I interviewed Haley Toney. He's like, you go get her, Haley, and she'll pump them up. But they feed off of her, and that is something to keep in mind. They just played on that field and had success with a trophy, winning the Big 12 tournament there. And Nyjah has a ton of experience in that stadium as well, maybe more than anybody, any player this weekend.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like Texas Tech it's their first, in program history, but it doesn't feel like that because we've seen these key pieces be on the stage. So it's a really interesting mix with Coach Glasgow and Nyjah. I feel like we've just seen them right in the big moments at postseason. So it is still cool, and they're a veteran team that's a new team. So it's all the things with conference realignment and transfers and coaching moves. So it keeps us on our toes, I guess.
Well, Kenzie, I would be remiss if we didn't go back to the Pac-12 and talk about Oregon and UCLA with some hashtag Pac-12 after dark action in Oklahoma City. UCLA was in an out from not making it to the World Series, and then they battled back, win game 2 in a walk-off, and then they dominate South Carolina in game 3. Oregon surprisingly handled Liberty in the Super Regionals after needing some dramatics to get out of their regional versus Stanford. How do you assess the Ducks and the Bruins, given who could potentially be looming on the other side in this bracket?
Did Oregon sweep UCLA when they played in the regular season?
2 out of 3. 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3.
Run ruled them in the last game. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I remember feeling like it was a very one-sided dominant type of performance. Okay. So I was almost there. Well, first of all, UCLA, I think, had the most dramatic inning of the entire weekend. That was insane. I remember I was actually in the workout room of the hotel room, just trying to stay busy because we had a late 8 p.m. game. And all of a sudden my phone starts going off and I'm texting my producers and texting my husband. I'm like, oh my God. My sister, it was one of those moments where you were texting someone because that was insane. But my sister had a good comment. She's like, that was the most UCLA thing I've ever seen. And it's if you've been around the pack, yes, correct. Can confirm. I can also, from experience, I also know this, unfortunately, but it is the most UCLA thing to be, dead in the water. And then all of a sudden, I think there's a meme. Is it the Undertaker or something where
yeah, the Undertaker.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That was literally them. And then pedal to the metal. You kind of felt the mojo, of course, day 3 is a new game, but I don't know. It just felt like that was UCLA flashing UCLA thing. So really cool moment, just for the sport. Insane. Crazy. And then who's the other one? Oregon. Did not get to watch. That's a lie. I watched it a little bit, between innings. I'm not even going to lie, during our super, because the first game, it was a really tight game. And we were going back and forth up against them. So I was kind of on my iPad, just tuning into the stats and tuning into the stream on ESPN on the app, just to kind of be informed. So I watched a little bit that way, but nothing where I could really sit down and digest it because we were always at the same time for some reason. But Oregon's a really fun team. They're incredibly fast. They have sneaky power and they have arms. Lindsay is legit in the circle, and it's been fun to watch her. I think kind of very similar with Nyjah, where she's gotten stronger as the year has gone on. If anyone knows anything about Coach Lombardi, she does wonders with pitching. She's a phenomenal pitch caller. Obviously, it was a catcher, but very similar to a Courtney Deifel type of coach, where she's so dialed into the bullpen as a head coach. And I think there's something to be said for head coaches that have their arms wrapped around the pitchers. I think it's so important. Obviously, that's where your team starts, and she's dialed in and Lindsay's dialed in. So the rematch, unfortunate for them, but fun for us.
Hey, Kenzie, at least it's not a 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time start. They have put the Pac-12 teams in the past. It's a 9:30 Eastern time, 6:30 Pacific time. So I'm glad they actually get the last game of the day for a change in Oklahoma City and not the first game.
Okay, yeah, that's not too bad. I mean, we'll watch them at midnight. It's whatever, but yeah.
That's all after dark.
Yeah, it's what we prefer. I did see a lot of former Pac players being still repping the Pac, even though it is the Big Ten. There's just that pride that will never die. So there was
Yeah.
like a lot of that on social, which is fun.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
right.
no, for sure. And speaking of the pack, you know from your own experience, not only as an analyst, obviously, but playing, and specifically playing in Oklahoma City, what this is like. So can you tell us in those moments in Oklahoma City, like this one right here, back in 2010, what that feeling was actually like experiencing being in the Women's College World Series?
That's funny. If that is our first game against Tennessee, I'm pretty sure I blacked out because it did not go great. So not only was I just like so juiced and so amped and nervous for our first game, and then I got called by a bajillion illegal pitches, and my head was just not on my shoulders. It was in space because I didn't know what was going on at this point. This little freshman was just under attack, and the illegal pitches were coming. So that game did not go well. Lost by a lot. Had to regroup very quickly. I had to pitch after the game to try and they were filming me. We were trying to figure out how I could change my windup and try to keep my toe on the ground. Realized it was on one pitch more than another. So like, what did I need to do for that? And then we had to win 4 games in 2 days. And somehow it did that. And we were very tired, but we did it. It was the old way of the bracket where, you know, you lose that first game and you are punished. And we were punished, but we did it. We came out of it. Obviously came up short in the Champ Series, but pretty much gave it our all and emptied the tank. Who knows what our run could have looked like if it was spaced out a little bit more like it is now.
Yeah.
Because I was just tired. Your girl was out of juice after pitching, 6 games in like 3 days. So it was an amazing experience. The thing that I remember the most about the World Series though is all of the fans that wait for you after your game is over, and they're waiting for you whether you win or whether you lose. And they have, whether it's like fans that maybe you knew from your team, or for me, for Arizona, that had traveled to see you. Or if it's, young girls that you've never seen before and they've never seen you before, but they are just so excited to get a glimpse of you and get your autograph and take a photo. And my biggest, recommendation for players that are maybe heading into their first Women's College World Series is to have that perspective. And even if you do lose, someone has to lose. One team is only, coming out of this thing. So if you do lose and you see those bright young faces, take your time, smile, sign the autographs, because I still remember that. And it feels good when you win, obviously, but I feel like it even means more when you lose, because it's just showing, how you can be humble and how us women can carry ourselves and what it looks like to be on this stage, because those girls are going to be looking at you with big eyes going, oh, that could be me. I want to be her. I want to wear her number. I want to go to this school. And to me, that's just what it's all about at this stage.
Everybody definitely wanted to be you back then. I mean, it turned out well for you. You're a Hall of Famer now, Arizona Hall of Fame. Not many could say that. That's a pretty good little bit. How many games did you say you pitched in that World Series?
6.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now here we are 15 years later, and you've got 10.
Can I say something?
Sure,
Yes,
of course
Kenzie.
you can say.
Has anyone been missing the illegal pitch rule?
No.
Thank
By
you.
the way, no, Kenzie, I see toe on dirt here.
Thank you.
Just saying, I see
When
toe
I
on
say it was like an inch, it was an inch, and they were just on me for it. There was another pitcher that we were like going toe to toe who could have more illegal pitches. I think it was Stephanie Brombacher.
Yeah, it was Brombacher.
But fast forward, here we are in the year of 2025, and how has this year been? Has anyone missed the illegal pitches?
Nope. I haven't missed it. It's wild, huh? So you're saying you help kind of fix this then? In a way, you kind of you sacrifice for the sport. Thank you,
15 years later.
15 years.
Hey, I went on Jenna's podcast like a couple years ago, and I was like, we need to get rid of this.
She did. She made a case.
I remember. I remember. So I'm giving you credit. So let me ask you this, because I think that's one of the interesting storylines in this World Series. You got Tennessee with Carlin Pickens. Nyjah Kennedy. By the way, what's the hardest you've ever thrown?
72.
Okay, so you can't relate to 78.
No.
Come close.
Okay, here's the other thing that we need to talk about is that our pitchers can now have their back foot off of the rubber.
Ooh.
For I pitch, not only did you have to keep your feet on the ground, but you have to have your feet like this on the mound.
Both feet
rubber.
have to touch. Yep.
Right. So here I am, 6 feet tall, 6'1", size 12 feet, and I'm trying to gas it up with my feet like this. Right. So you think about Carlin Pickens, if her feet would have been like this, she's nowhere near 78. It's just, can you imagine Monica Abbott? Like, let's go. It's years of training like that, because it's not one thing to just say like, hey, throw this one pitch and have your foot off the ground. You have to learn how to train your legs and get ground, push off. It's like track stars working on their start. Pitchers are going to really figure out what works best for them and get their leg drive and get their muscles going. So I have loved that rule. First of all, like, am I jealous? Yes, I am. But I love it. I know. I love it. I think it's great. Like, let their back foot be off. Let's throw harder. But it's why we are seeing these speeds and why we did not see speeds like this in the era of, Monica Abbott, Jenny Finch, and even my era.
Now, by the way, we have people in the chat saying they enjoyed your game against Hawaii in 2010. They're bringing a positive performance. Right? Myra and Jay saying that game against Hawaii was a good game you pitched.
Thanks. So that means you're old if you remember that. I'm just kidding.
I mean, I remember that. I watched it. But I wanted to ask, so you got on the interesting philosophies here. You got Carlin Pickens, who basically pitched every game, started every game in the Supers, might get the ball the entire World Series. Nyjah might get the ball the entire World Series. You mentioned the scheduling allows that. Keegan Rothrock is somebody Florida leans on. Tegan Cavan, who you've seen, is somebody Texas might lean on for most of this. Then you have the opposite with teams like UCLA and Oregon that have staffs, and then a team you covered, obviously, in these last couple of weeks, Ole Miss, that they won't be shy to throw 3 arms in a game. What do you think of the contrast of the pitching philosophies that we have here in this World Series?
Yeah, it's so interesting. Obviously, it doesn't hurt to have that dominant arm. I think you really have to, it's still true. You still have to have the ace to go the distance. It's until we've been proven differently. I think there was maybe one Oklahoma championship where they were kind of a staff type of, makeup, but the rest of the way it's been an All-American in the circle, whether it's, Kelly Maxwell or Jordy Ball, and, you go all the way down the list. So you do have to have the arm. So I'm interested to see how far the teams with the staffs can push it. Let's see. Let's set something new. Let's see if you can really use the staff and do game strategy and do matchups. One thing I will say about Ole Miss, they know what they are doing in terms of matchups. And if you have a staff, I love the way that they have built their staff, because every pitcher is so different. You have Miley Wachenio, the freshman, who is a rise ball up spinner. Great. And Binford down with the hard drop. And then you have the lefty in Lopez. She's got the curve and the change. I will say one thing that they all do have is a changeup. And so you have to really try and slow these hitters down. They have done a great job up to this point at neutralizing the big hitters, neutralizing hitters like Devin Netz, neutralizing hitters like Bree Ellis. And to me, the key has been the timely matchups with, the roster movements on who's in the circle at what time, and then the timely changeups. It's just one of those things where you'll see a changeup once a batter from the Ole Miss pitching staff. And I love that. I think that's so key. But I'm really interested to see how those teams can push it together, and who gets the ball, and then who do they turn it to, and when do they turn it to. It's definitely timely when they make those pitching changes.
And one other thing, Kenzie, by the way, Ole Miss pitching coach Nancy Evans, Arizona grade. So, hey, they're being taught well over there in Oxford.
Well, Garen
last night.
Oh, yes, it was
when they made it to World Series. All right, go ahead, Kenzie.
Yep. Well, I was gonna say you will. I don't know this for a fact, but I can guess. I will be 99% sure that they will talk about the narrative with Nancy Evans and Taryn Mowat and pitching a lot of changeups and the changeups that you've seen from Ole Miss. I mean, if you remember Taryn Mowat in 07, it was a changeup frenzy. And Ole Miss is kind of a little bit like that. It's just 3 different arms that are doing it.
Yeah.
That's true. What is it about former Arizona pitchers just going to state of Mississippi to coach there?
Oh, you're so right.
I mean, wow, that's pretty good. Now, I have a request for you. Since this is royalty here, we got you and Jenna here together.
Are you gonna be asking for a jersey again, Eric, like you did from FAU, Jordan Clark, like you did on our selection show?
No, I should actually with a Hall of Famer. That's a valid point, but not in this case. Right now, maybe another time. You mentioned it. You were on Jenna's podcast, which is and I've told Jenna this. It's my favorite episode that she's ever done. And I don't know. I keep up with all the podcasts she hosts. She does a lot. That's my favorite part. But here's a request. I've asked Caitlin Lowe and Jessica Allister both on my podcast about the 2 Stanford and Arizona. They're going to play each other moving forward in years to come. Here, they played this year. You saw it. They're going to play in future years. My request is, what do we got to do to get the 2 of you in the booth together to call one of those games?
Oh, hell yeah.
Let's do this. What do we got to do? Who do we got to call?
Okay, that's an easy request in terms of getting us on board. That's
Okay.
no problem. Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, I'm down. Whatever.
right.
Well, I would say Stanford did come to Tucson this year, but with that new stadium, we'll see. We'll see.
Kenzie, look, as you know, you were just there in Stanford last year. Jenna's the queen of the city. I mean, whatever you. Yeah.
How does it look?
So
Have they started? Like, what are the construction updates?
It's on track. I mean, it's kind of crazy because I hadn't been around it since the fall when it was a pile of dirt, and that was super weird to look at.
Yeah,
it was literally just the batting cages on the side and just the scoreboard, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
But then all of a sudden you drive by on El Camino, the main street that's right there, and you can see them like they've built up. It is like 3 stories or something like that, and you can see quite a bit of progress now, which is kind of crazy to think about. But yeah, they're on track.
Is it going to be exactly the same, like orientation, or are they flipping it at all, or
the direction? Yeah, the orientation's the same, but they are going to have like a concourse with more concessions and restrooms. And I think in the outfield, they're going to have some seating.
Nice.
Rumor has it might be called like the treehouse out there. I don't know. We'll see.
That's so cute. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like right there in front of your face, but like, good job not to miss it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, great. That's so exciting. I can't wait to see it. I would love to come out.
So you're on board. You're on board. We got this on record. All right. I want Jessica Allister and Caitlin Lowe to get this segment and make sure it's part of the contract when they agree on the terms on playing. This has to be part of the deal. Otherwise, I'm going to call everybody out on my podcast. We're going to call it.
Oh, your podcast.
That's right.
You see that? That's twice now. He said his podcast. Like, are you trying to tell me something there that I don't know?
Well, I know you're not calling them out, but I'll call people out for that. I want this to happen.
I want this our podcast, not your podcast, our podcast.
I got a few.
Kenzie, good thing you're only in here for a little bit, and then I got to deal with these hooligans.
So what do you have left? An hour? Like, how long are you guys going?
Not too much longer now.
These guys will go forever.
Yeah, right? Trying to reel them in.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Kenzie. This was so fun. I can still, I think, remember you striking me out when I was like hitting lefty in Tucson back in the day. So if you, that must have been in 2010. So if you take anything away from that year, pitching, illegal pitches or not, you can have that in your back pocket.
I'm pretty sure I remember playing against you in club too.
Yeah. Yes, I think so.
Cruisers?
No, that was the other Jenna. That was Jenna Rich, who was on the team when I was also on the team. But I want to say, because you played for like the Desert Thunder, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I feel like maybe when we were younger, I remember playing Desert Thunder.
No, I definitely remember playing against you somewhere.
Raiders.
Oh, maybe. Because I remember like they were, when there's a good player on the team in your club, you know exactly who that player is. And so it's like that player is going to Stanford, like, and so that for, when you're like 15, 16, you're like, oh, let's go. It's on.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Need for you. Let's go. Club. Challenge up.
True.
I think I remember pitching against you in club, but my memory is a little.
Well, we won't talk about how long ago that was. So
it was a few years ago. It's just a few years ago. By the way, Myron says she's not old. It's just she's a diehard Arizona fan and now lives in Wyoming.
Period. Love it. Love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kenzie.
Arizona fans.
Yes. You know what? They were actually very nice to my parents. I don't know if I told you. Maybe I did tell you when you came on the pod, Kenzie. I can't remember. Fans were super nice to my parents my senior year when we went to Tucson. And I come home for the summer and I see Arizona softball water bottles in the cupboard. And I'm like, what the hell is this? At the time, I was like, what are you guys doing? And they're like, oh, there were these fans. They were cheering for you. They were really nice to us. And I was like,
so they bought them or were they given them?
No, they were given to them. They were given, like, these fans were nice and gave them to them. And so they brought them home. Because I was like shocked, though. I was like, what is happening right now?
Arizona fans are the funniest and I love them to pieces. I mean, I've had a lot of people tell me that, like, obviously Hillenbrand's a tough place to play. Like Big Game Rita, it gets very loud. The acoustics of the stadium, especially the new stadium, it's even taller and bigger. But it can be very loud. But I've had players tell me like, oh, it was hostile, but they were like kind of yelling against you guys a little bit when you guys would mess up. And I was like,
it's true.
Yep. They keep us on our toes. You hear a couple like throw strikes, Kenzie, or, like, what do you don't bunt, swing, stuff like that. Like, so I love them though. Like they're diehard softball fans. They have seen a lot of successful softball and expectations are high as they should be. But I've had a lot of visiting players say that they loved playing there because they felt like it was equally hostile around the whole game. Just it's hostile everywhere.
It's true. I remember we got yelled at. So did you all.
Yep.
Yeah, it's totally true.
We love it. Anyway.
Well, thank you, Kenzie. I know you're going to be locked in with this World Series as
sure.
So I can't wait to now. We will be making this happen. Apparently, we're now in charge of the schedule for Stanford softball.
Let me just call the athletic directors and let them know.
Just really quick.
Hey, I need to talk to you about something.
Anyway, thanks for having me, guys. Anytime.
Great job, Kenzie, and seriously, great job in the postseason. This postseason as always.
Thank you. I'll be tuning in as a fan, and then we're back to AU. We'll be calling some AU this summer. So got a little brief hiatus to couch it up, and then we're back to it.
Perfect. Great plug for AUSL this summer.
Yes.
Love that.
Yes.
Thank you, Kenzie.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
So Eric just made happen Kenzie and Jenna being in the same broadcast booth for Stanford.
That really, my week is set. I'm good now. I'm good for the week. This was my goal. That was my goal. That was a dream. We needed to make this happen, Jenna.
Well, when you ask for a request, I get nervous because who knows where that's what direction that's going in. But then when you said it, I was like, oh, well, we're on board. It's the scheduling that we need to make happen.
Because you two never got to work together, right? You never got to work together.
No, not directly. No. I think it'd be so fun. Like if I did play-by-play and she did color, I think it would be super fun. So it's a great idea. I know you've pitched that to me before, but thank you.
Well, now it's on record. On record.
It is. Well, so both of our guests given us some insight too on both sides of the bracket for the World Series and just their own experiences too, of course. But maybe we start with, because we're coming off of talking about that bottom part of the bracket with Kenzie, maybe we'll start with the Ole Miss Texas Tech and the UCLA Oregon piece. From our perspective, is there anything that we want to add? So if we are taking a look, again, we talked about Texas Tech and Ole Miss going up against each other, Oregon and UCLA, the familiarity in the bottom part in that matchup, and then both newbies in the top part of that matchup. I think we heard some great points from Kenzie. But you guys, anything that sticks out to you that you want to add too as we look at this path?
Yeah, I think the UCLA Oregon is interesting. UCLA has been the team that's been here, done that. Whereas Oregon, a lot of they haven't been here since 2018. So how does that play a factor in this matchup? And which UCLA team are we going to get? They've kind of been an enigma. They got outplayed by South Carolina. Very fortunate to win that Supers. We know they're better than what they've shown. Do they take that South Carolina experience as new life and take advantage? And then Oregon with their speed going to be interesting against UCLA. And then Texas Tech and Ole Miss. Who's happy to just be here versus, hey, we want to do some damage, I think is the interesting matchup there in Texas Tech and Ole Miss. And I think Texas Tech's offense is going to be a big key in this entire World Series. They've really, the last month, they have clicked offensively. but they cannot afford. They got to have good timely hitting, and they can't run themselves out of innings like they sometimes do. If they can click hitting wise, I think Texas Tech is a legitimate national championship threat.
I think the biggest thing for me, Jenna, is Ole Miss and that momentum that they have. First starting in Arizona, knocking off the Wildcats, and then going to Bogle, beating Arkansas to make it out of supers. They're not going to be intimidated taking on Nyjah Kennedy at Texas Tech. And we've seen stories of Ole Miss teams having to earn their way into the postseason and holding up a trophy at the end. See their baseball team a few years ago where they were the last team in the tournament and they were the last team standing holding up the national championship trophy. The big key, and I think Eric alluded to this when we had Kenzie on, is having the staff versus the one arm. And the schedule sets up where if you win, if you're Texas Tech with Nyjah, she gets a day of rest before she plays on Saturday. If they win that game, a day of rest before they play on Monday night. So it's going to be vital for a team like a Texas Tech or an Oregon to keep winning so they can have their aces fresh and ready to go, because I likely think they're going to bring those arms and make them available if they wanted to advance further in this tournament and maybe play in the championship series.
Yeah, and we talked about the familiarity, obviously, with Oregon, UCLA, and each other. But even Nyjah specifically, like if, let's say, they move forward and they play Oregon or UCLA, she knows what that's like from the perspective of being in the Pac-12 the last couple of years. And to me, it oftentimes when you see a pitcher, the more you see them, the better you start to be against them. But at the same time, the pitchers, especially the elite ones like a Nyjah, the more they see a lineup, they also learn more things about their swings as well. So from that perspective, I'm curious to see how that could possibly play out with the Rebels. But I think you guys are both right in the sense that Ole Miss, they're playing like they got nothing to lose. You know, they do not care. We had Aaliyah Binford on the podcast with me and Amanda this week, and she was talking about it. She's like, we just know that we're going to keep thinking the same thing, which is why not the Rebs? Like everyone else can make excuses for why we're winning. Everyone else can think certain things, but we're here. And that mindset can be dangerous. The other thing that sticks out to me too is how much the transfer portal has affected where these teams are now. Obviously, Nyjah was the biggest headline from the transfer perspective going to Texas Tech. The class around her that Jerry Glasgow brought over to Texas Tech too. Ole Miss has a ton of transfers. Lindsey Grine going from Virginia Tech to Oregon, making a difference and taking her team now to the World Series this year. So just keeping that in mind too, just the new dimension of what it is to be a coach is not just you're a GM essentially at the same time managing or a CEO, even like managing your own business, which is the program. So seeing how those things play out on top of what goes on in the field there's a lot of layers to it. Speaking of which as well, for the transfer tracker, that's something that you should definitely keep up with us. So keeping up with the transfer portal just got easier. The D1Softball transfer tracker gives you the ability to sort by class, position, school, and more. Plus, individual player statistics are just one click away, so you can judge for yourself who the best transfers are. Because we know that that's the time of year that it is right now, too. Not just OKC, but it's transfer portal time as well.
Yep, and Tennessee made 2 huge additions in the portal as announced by Justin McLeod. They got Manny Rutan, who was a 2-way star at Eastern Kentucky, and they got Sophia Knight from Boise State. That was just announced before you went on the air tonight. So Tennessee's gearing up for another run in 2026, but they got to finish things off in 2025. And LSU has a couple of impact transfers as well. What people are considering a make or break year for Beth Tarina, considering how things ended prematurely for the Tigers this year.
Yeah, I think Nebraska not even playing LSU at all in that regional was what was the craziest part, honestly. Yep. We've seen upsets, but not even to see that matchup was what was wild, the most wild at least.
You can thank Southeastern Louisiana for that one, ladies and gentlemen.
Truly. Well, then going back to the SEC side of the bracket, we can call it the top
mini SEC Invitational.
Yeah. But with 2 newbies too, because of the realignment. Two of these four teams in this section of the bracket are obviously coming off their first years in the SEC, with Texas and Oklahoma. Oklahoma getting the regular season and what turned out to be the tournament championship as well in the SEC. I thought Tori brought a lot of great insight when she joined us earlier, going through what she has seen from the conference this year and what she thinks we may see this week. We talked about Carlin Pickens. We talked about some of Oklahoma's offense, Texas with Tegan Kavan, the Reese Atwood connection, and then Florida with the freshman of the year for D1 softball, Taylor Shoemaker, for example. But what else do we think is particularly interesting about this side of the bracket, outside of the fact that, hey, these are rematches from this year?
The rematches, and they know each other. They know each other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the biggest thing for sure. Because, and a reminder too, we've touched on it, but yes, Texas took the series from Florida this year, and Tennessee took the series from Oklahoma this year. Both of those on the road, I believe.
Both on the road, yeah. Yes. That's a good call. Now, it's worth noting Florida was without Keegan Rothrock in that series. True. So to me, that's the wild card. I thought she pitched well against Georgia. We'll see how she does against Texas. Texas's pitching this year has not been as dominant as last year. Now they got a good outing from Mac Morgan to close out the Clemson game. So we'll see how if she could build that momentum. I know Mike White was asked about that in media day. And here's the thing about Oklahoma. They're not going for a 5-peat in reality. A lot of these players are brand new.
Right.
And how did some of these young players handle this environment going up against the Tennessee and a Carlin Pickens with nearly, a big crowd in front of you? I think it'll be interesting to see who shows some nerves early in these games.
But I think, to your point, Eric, the ultimate equalizer is going to be, one, Patty Gasso, and two, that the majority of that crowd is going to be yelling Boomer Sooner for the opening pitch of the game. That's the biggest thing.
I thought it wasn't a home field advantage.
Hey, it's funny how it wasn't. You know what? I'm gonna let you stoke those fires.
I'm not the one that said Boomer Sooner. I mean,
all I know is that it wasn't a problem when the Pac-10 at the time was running roughshod in Oklahoma City. I'm just saying that. But back to the on-field conversation. How does Texas and Tennessee handle the pressure of trying to beat those teams again when everything is on the line? Especially Tennessee playing Oklahoma in that second game on Thursday afternoon. Because yes, and again, I said it last year and I'll say it again. Beating Oklahoma in Norman in the regular season is one thing. Beating Oklahoma in Oklahoma City in late May and early June is an entirely different animal altogether. I love how Gabby Garcia has taken that National Freshman of the Year snub by some Sooner fans, has taken it personally with the way she's been hitting, and Lowry and Landry in the circle are going to be vital. I think Peyton Monticelli as well. She has some solid innings in the postseason. They're going to need her to be that third arm along with Kirsten Deal. Deal was the one that got the start in the Super Regional clincher versus Alabama. She pitched phenomenally, and the offense backed her up at that 8-run third inning. If they can get support behind those two arms, Lowry and Landry, even though the path is going to be difficult, Oklahoma has all the pieces they need to make it a 5th straight national title.
Well, they're going to need all those arms because Sam Landry's never pitched in the World Series. Carlin Pickens has, so has Tegan Kavan, so has Keegan Rothrock, so has Nyjah Kennedy, so has some of the UCLA arms. That is something I'm watching closely, where you have a pitcher like Lindsey Grind hasn't pitched in this situation in the World Series. So how do these pitchers handle that? It's going to be fascinating. And I think with Pickens in particular, I don't care if Oklahoma's seen her 100 times. If Pickens is hitting her changeups like she did against Nebraska on Sunday, Oklahoma will not be on ABC. They will be on the loser's bracket, guaranteed, if she pitches to her potential.
Hot take.
Wow. Aaron Lopez Elo, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see on his
No, listen, I think Carlin's motivated. I think she is. Everybody was talking about Jordy Ball in that Super Regional, and she outpitched Jordy Ball.
She did.
And everybody's talking about Nyjah winning all these awards, rightfully so. Carlin Pickens has gotten snubbed here and I'm telling you that she is a competitor, and that team, if they got to play good defense. Now, so people in the message board brought it up. where
Yes.
Tennessee's defense is the wild card here. When they've run into problems, their defenses have been a little leaky. In case in point, in game 1 of that Nebraska Super Regional, you cannot give teams in this field like Oklahoma extra outs. If you do, you're done. So I will get, there's the caveat, but I'm telling you that Carlin Pickens, I mean, you could have the 2 best pitchers. Would you not agree, Jenna and Vic? The 2 best pitchers in the sport is in this field in the World Series. I don't know the last time we could honestly say that, where the 2 best arms are Nigel Kennedy and Carlin Pickens are both here in this World Series. And if they're both locked in, I wouldn't mind seeing those 2 go in a best of 3 at the end of this.
Well, they're gonna need some. Yeah, go ahead, Jenna.
No, they're going to need to. That's absolutely right. I mean, if you look at the field that we have in OKC across the board, as a team, as a group, the batting averages are up from last year. So are the ERAs, right? And some of that really aligns with what we saw this year, which is that there was a lot more parity, more, I don't even know if you can call them upsets, but just not as dominant at the top, maybe as we've seen these past few years with Oklahoma. It's still fantastic seasons. Let's not get that twisted, but just not quite as dominant that we have seen. So with that being said, I think I'm so glad you brought up defense, because that is one thing that has stood out to me in regionals and super regionals across the board, actually, where sometimes not sticking to the fundamentals has really hurt teams. We talk about timely hitting. I think you have to make timely plays as well. Making the routine plays is so underrated, because we do see fantastic defensive plays at times, like outstanding. We're making the Sports Center top 10 all the time, it feels like, actually now in college softball. But if we can't make some of the routine plays, it's putting our pitchers in this situation, like we're talking about, in a much tougher position, and putting a little bit more pressure on the offense too, then have to answer to that. Clean defense is, I think, so underrated. So I do think that's going to be across the board. Yeah. And Oregon has the best fielding percentage. Just want to throw that out there. 981 as a squad.
It is magnified in this event.
Yes.
Oklahoma has won. I mean, if you ask Coach Gasso, they've won national titles with their glove in this before. We remember Jada Coleman and some of the catches she's made in center field in the past. That is going to be a key. Oklahoma, again, very young. How do they handle it? Do they make a couple of miscues? Things like that. Florida just had 2 Gold Glove Award winners. They got the best outfielder in the sport in Kendra Falvey. Looking forward to see what highlight play she's going to make here. Jocelyn Erickson just won a Gold Glove. Florida has the defense. Texas Tech, you're right. Texas Tech's got to play clean with Nyjah. That's how you beat these great pitchers. A lot of times it's not because you hit them. It's because you put enough pressure on the opponent's defense to make miscues, Jenna. You make a great point on that.
And that's how Stanford got eliminated last year.
Now, why did you have to bring that up, too? Come on.
Hey, Eric, what are we talking? Hey, we're talking.
This is karma, because I asked Kenzie about her World Series experience.
Thank you. That's exactly what it is. But the reason why they beat Nyjah last year was they put the ball in play. They forced them to play clean defensively, and they could not do that. If Ole Miss does that to Texas Tech early, and Texas Tech makes a mistake, then the pressure builds on Nyjah and that Texas Tech offense. So Eric's point, clean defense and smart base running. And back to your point about the base running, how Clemson was 60 feet away from making it to Super Regionals. Florida cannot leave 27 runners on base in the last 2 games of the Super Regionals they did against Georgia and expect to come away with the victory versus Texas. That Texas lineup is much better than Georgia's, much deeper than Georgia's. If you leave 10, 11, 12 runners on base against Texas, Texas has the bats to make you pay. So if Florida gets runners on base, especially early on Cavan Thursday afternoon, they have to put up crooked numbers in those early innings.
Yeah. And I know I mentioned about Oregon having the best fielding percentage in this field. Texas has the best batting average as a squad, 359 as a group. ERA wise, off the top of your head, both of you, who would you think? Would you think it's Texas Tech or Tennessee who has the best ERA?
I'll say Tennessee. I'll say Tennessee.
Texas Tech.
Tennessee, but very close.
Sage Margetko. Jay Margetko has had a nice quiet year.
Yeah, 1.72 ERA for Tennessee, 1.79 for Texas Tech. Victor, I mean, come on, they're like both right there. But what's interesting about Tennessee is they have the lowest ERA, but also the lowest batting average as a group, right? So it's like, what are we compensating for too in some ways with some of these teams? Meanwhile, Kenzie was talking about how Ole Miss slugged their way to the Women's College World Series. They needed to, because they have the highest ERA and the lowest fielding percentage as well as a group. So it's, we can dig into the stats all day long, but at the same time, what we've all talked about, including our guest tonight, is how do you show up on that day and really the mental side of it, dealing with the environment and everything that goes into Oklahoma City. How do you handle it? We're about to see.
We will. I'll be fascinated to see what happens there. And it's going to be fun. And, do we want to make predictions, or do we want to kind of hold off on that now?
We'll make predictions. Let's do it. Before, just to add a little more, anticipation for our predictions. Just if you stuck around, if you're here right now on the live, we appreciate it. A lot of you have tuned in, which is awesome. Want to give you a little treat right now. So we do have a discount code for an annual subscription for D1Softball. WCWS 2025 to get 20% off a subscription with us. It includes literally everything that we work on, as well as our colleagues on the editorial side too, led by Justin McLeod, but a ton of fantastic writers like Rhiannon Potke, Jeff Brown, etc. All of that is going to be on the website, the coverage from this entire World Series, as well as what we're doing digitally. Whether that's podcasts, social media, and of course, more of these lives within the circle. So WCWS 2025 for that 20% off. Had to let the people know.
Yes.
But Victor, I feel like something's brewing with you right now. I'm scared.
What do you mean now?
That makes both of us there,
Jenna.
Jenna.
The only thing I did was ditch this Florida Panthers jersey, because the Panthers are getting blown out in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals, 2-0 after the first period. So, Eric, let's worry about the Panthers making the Stanley Cup Finals first before any plans are made for our live shows. But be that as it may, Ms. Lopez, I will give you first choice. I will give you the first predictions, or who will play in the Champ Series and who we'll be talking about next week.
That's what's tough. I think you can make a case for 6 teams to win the national title in this field, which I don't think we've said in a while. Right. I think the number's been very much lower than that in the most recent years. I do think it's open. And I'm really fascinated to see how it comes out of we will have an SEC champion crown here. We'll not get rained out. That we can promise you. I don't know when. It'll make rain, but it won't rain forever like it did in Athens.
So you're saying the champion's going to be from the SEC?
Not necessarily, because the championship might get wrecked, or maybe wrecked them. Because I got Texas Tech in the Champ Series. Nyjah goes against Florida in the Champ Series. I got the Gators winning the whole thing. I think Florida has the attitude. I saw Tim Walton talk to the media. Didn't refuse to answer any questions about Oklahoma. He said, we're going to talk about our team and our players. They were this close to playing for the Champ Series. I think they closed the deal this year.
Wow.
You're just trying to get on Amanda's good side. I see what you're doing.
That might be what it is. I do want to be on Amanda Lorenz's good side. That's a good point.
It is a good place to be fair. It's a good place to be. Okay. That's a take, Eric.
Go ahead, Jenna. Good luck following that one.
Yeah, right? Okay. I do think it's going to be very hard fought, but I have a feeling that Oklahoma is going to be back in the Champ Series this year, because they're playing their best ball right now. Not just because they're undefeated in the postseason, which they are, but I just think that they're playing their best ball and they look very, very confident out there. Just that sort of intangible thing that you need to be at the top at the end of this thing, which they know all about as a culture, at least, despite there being some new kids. I just think they have that it factor to make it at least to the Champ Series. Who they're going to face after that is so tough. I'll go, you know what? Let's do it. Let's go crazy. I'll say that Bruin Magic is going to take them all the way to the Champ Series, because we have seen Bruin Magic time and time again, down to their last out, down to their last pitch, and Jordan Rollery comes through. But then where they were after that in Game 3, actually, it's sort of the same thing. It's like that intangible thing. They know exactly what it's like to be there, NCAA record 33rd time at the Women's College World Series. They know how to handle those emotions. So we'll see. I mean, maybe an OU UCLA matchup. Vic?
Ooh, rematch of 19. There you go.
Yeah, where UCLA was the last team to knock off Oklahoma in the Champ Series. I've said it all year. By the way, Jenna, if you're following the chat, people are calling out Mr. Lopez for his championship prediction.
Well, no, Fag Knight called it. I picked Florida back in February. I can't back out now. And I said 6 teams can win this. I think it's very feasible. Like, this is not like Oklahoma could win it. Texas can win it.
So. Yeah, but Jenna, Stoopsify said, Eric said Oklahoma versus Tech last night on Sooner Sean's show. So
I said that is probably the dream matchup. If you're TV, if you're ESPN, that's what they want. That's what they want. That's the matchup. That would be the one that's going to draw the most viewership.
Oh, so
Nyjah against Oklahoma.
That's the matchup ESPN wants.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you're TV, that's the draw. That's the draw. Oklahoma's the draw versus Nyjah. That would be the matchup. And by the way, I'm not against that either. I would not be bummed out if that was the national championship series. So I'm good with that.
Well, guess what, Eric? ESPN and ABC ain't going to get their wish in the NBA Finals because it's going to be Oklahoma City versus Indiana, 2 mid-major markets. ESPN is going to get their wish for softball because it will be Oklahoma versus Texas Tech, Nyjah versus the Sooners. But, ladies and gentlemen, if you're with me on a Selection Sunday, Jenna, you know what's coming.
We're back
with the Golden Gusto. Y'all see it. Sooners.
5, Pete.
Patty Gasso, Patty Cake. Sooners with number 5.
Who do you have them over Texas Tech? Is that what you said? I will say this, Jenna. I think you got good value in your UCLA pick because I do think a lot of people are going to pick Texas Tech, and UCLA has the experience advantage. I think that's not a bad pick.
So I just realized I picked who's going to make it to the Champ Series. I said Oklahoma and UCLA, but I guess I didn't say who I thought was going to win.
Go for it.
And I am Victor. I think I got to say I'm on the 5, Pete.
There you go.
Yes. Welcome, Jenna. Welcome.
I do not have a goat mask, which I think is for the benefit of everyone.
It's fair.
But
that's more than fair.
We will hold this up in unison for you, Jenna. How about that?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We'll hold that for you. How about that? Well, but the interesting thing to Eric's point is this: there are 6 teams that could legitimately win the national championship, but you got a team in Ole Miss who has that magic going for them with the run they're on so far. And let's not discount what Oregon has done and Missy Lombardi taking over that program, which was in absolute shambles, and taking them back to the Women's College World Series. They're the nation's leaders in stolen bases. Oh, by the way, I think Oregon's speed is going to give UCLA problems. I'll be fascinated with these opening games on Thursday. 3 of the 4 matchups, rematches from the regular season. How many of those teams who lost the series beat them in the rematch tomorrow? That's going to be the fascinating part for me, because you could conceivably, Jenna, have Florida and Tennessee playing to keep their season alive on Friday. Heaven forbid if we get Red River in an elimination game tomorrow night. Good Lord, my mind, Friday night, my mind will actually be blown.
Well, it is something to keep in mind.
Yes.
We're guaranteed. Think about this. OU, Texas, Tennessee, Florida. They all were in the top 5 preseason poll. One of them is guaranteed to go 0-2.
Yes.
And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it's any of those 4. Like, you could flip a coin. That's how I think evenly that bracket is. From that standpoint. So we're going to have a team in the top 5 go out early 0-2. And then again, we may have a team in Texas Tech that's above, what is it? What are they? 12 seed? Maybe get to the Champ Series. Oregon's a 16. UCLA's a 9. Ole Miss unseeded. We got to go. I think Oklahoma, one of the years they won the national title, was a 10 seed. I want to say, so we got to go back when you have a seed that long. Texas played for the national title in 22 as an unseeded team.
Yes.
And I know FSU, I believe, in 21 or 23 was a 10 seed. But so you got a little bit of contrast with everybody here.
We do. I mean, half the field were not top 8 national seeds after Selection Sunday. Number 9 UCLA, 12 Tech, like you said, 16 Oregon, unseeded Ole Miss. And in addition to that, 3 out of the 4 matchups that we see on day one are in conference matchups. Like we said, it is still tough to process, but congratulations again to the 2 who are making their first ever Women's College World Series appearances with Texas Tech and Ole Miss. Getting to play each other first at least means somebody's getting their first World Series win.
Yes.
Someone's getting it tomorrow. So that is exciting when it comes to history here in OKC. And like we said, 5 SEC, 2 Big 10, 1 Big 12. It's all going down tomorrow in Oklahoma City. Final thoughts, everyone, from this group. For me, I think I know I asked everybody at the selection show during that special to have one word to describe the bracket. Eric chose like intriguing, I think, when really earlier he said it was drunk, the bracket. In my case, I actually think this postseason has been unhinged, and I'm anticipating this World Series being unhinged. You guys?
I will go, and I will say my word to describe this postseason so far has been unpredictable, because a lot of these games have gone down to the final innings. Of course, we referenced UCLA coming down to the final out to keep their season alive, and here they are in Oklahoma City. This World Series, this opening day tomorrow, it might be the most anticipated opening day of the Women's College World Series we had in quite some time, particularly the first session with the mini SEC tournament, Tennessee, Oklahoma, and then Texas and Florida leading off, and then Tennessee, Oklahoma. And then you got the star power, the many storylines. This is the most intriguing first day of the Women's College World Series that we've had in quite some time. I am hopeful that the action will live up to the hype.
I think it's different, right? It's a little different than what we're used to. You know, the one side of the bracket, no chalk. The other side, it is chalk. SECs and all that. A lot of familiarity with these teams playing each other a lot. So I think it's a little different. Like I said, there's a lot of variables, results that I think would not surprise anybody. I'm telling you, I think 6 teams, you could tell me that 6 teams win the national title of this 8, and I would believe it. And you could tell me, look, you could tell me Oregon somehow is in the national championship series, and I would believe it if they get hot. If Lindsey Grind is pitching to her level, what she did earlier in the year, I think she could get to the champ series. And I don't know if we've said that for a while. Normally we've narrowed it down to 2 to 3 to 4 teams. They're like, in the end of the day, we think it's going to be Oklahoma versus so-and-so, or Oklahoma and Texas has been really the story last year. I think we came in thinking it was going to be a collision between those 2 teams for the most part, with maybe Stanford playing a spoiler. This year, it's a little more wide open because there's a lot of unknowns from the standpoint of this. We don't know how these Texas Tech players are going to handle this environment around Nigel. We don't know how Oregon's going to handle this. We don't know how this Texas team's going to handle it. I mean, there's a lot of variables here that I think it's going to be fascinating to me. So I think it's a little different.
Yeah, all fair. Shout out to both CJ and to Mark, who are talking about how clutch people have been in this postseason. And I think whoever's going to win in the World Series is going to have to be clutch. So I like that word as well. But we can't wait, man. We cannot wait for this to start tomorrow. I can't believe it's
Patrick Mahomes, you're welcome to come, Patrick. Come on down.
Yeah.
Let's
and
go.
Matthew McConaughey. I saw his support as well. Patrick and Matthew.
So all right, so Jenna, if you're in the stands and you run into Matthew McConaughey and Patrick Mahomes, which one are you interviewing? Which one are you going for the interview?
¿Por qué no los dos? Why would I not try for both?
I think Jenna will have a better luck of finding the strike zone than finding McConaughey or Mahomes.
Yeah, let's hope we have a strike zone. Letlet's hope we have a strike zone.
Fair. All right. Well, thank you all.
On that note,
thank you all for joining us. We're going to all be locked in with you. Follow along on our social channels for both In the Circle as well as D1Softball. We're going to have so much on-site coverage for you across everything for D1Softball. And these guys are going to be doing multiple lives, marathon lives, just grinding it out like they do day after day. So stick with us. We're so excited you joined us tonight, and we cannot wait to watch this whole thing with you. Bye.